Alright, so good morning, class. My name is Brian Delgado, and the reason I'm recording is because I couldn't work the audio or video in my laptop right here, so I'd rather just make a video instead of just not present at all. So bear with me, please. My presentation is on Eva Hesse, post-minimalist pioneer, and I'm about to get into why I call her post-minimalist pioneer. But first, let's start with her early life. So, Eva Hesse was born on January 11, 1936. She was born in Germany, Hamburg to be exact, during the ruling of the Nazi Germany. Um, her and her family were Jewish, so they faced a lot of persecution. In fact, her grandparents were killed during the time, and that's when her and her parents decided, like, nah, we need to get out of here. So they went to England, and after England, they decided to go further out into America. And in America, things started to get more complicated because, as I said, there was a history of mental illness in the family. Her mother her mother's name was Ruth, and she suffered of depression, and she was also bipolar. So this led into a lot of tensions in the family, and eventually her and her husband split up, leaving uh, leaving Eva very, very sad and depressed. But what broke her the most is that her father remarried eventually to a woman named Eva. So at the end of the day, he was married to Eva Hesse. So she had a identity crisis very, very early in her life. And what screwed her up the most is that her biological mother, her actual mother, she committed suicide a little bit after the divorce. So it kind of grew this sentiment of nothing lasts forever on Eva. Her style, it's very experimental, it's fragile, perishable, unique, and emotional. What I mean by this, it is experimental because she, for example, this right here, she left a lot of her work to chance. She didn't plan what it was gonna look like. She just planned how she was gonna make it, and she was kind of a pioneer in what do you call it, in materials like um, I'm sorry, latex, rubber, fiberglass, stuff like that. She was the first to use these things. Um, this, for example, is very unique because at the time people weren't very welcome to erotic things, and here you see a woman's breast or a representation of a woman's breast, and above you can't see it, but it's a penis. And she called it, what she called it? She called it Ring Around a Rosie, and it was made in 1965. So she was very playful, uh, fragile, and perishable. What I say this because this, for example, this kind of looks like a spinal cord, right? It's very strong, very erect, but in the passage of time, um, so if you notice, this is split in different sections, just like a spinal cord, but every section started to break off as the decades went, and then they started to shrink because, like an old rubber band, how it gets fairly rough, and then it starts to break. This is what happened to that sculpture. So one of the quotes that I like from her is when she talks about um, selling her work. She talks about how she feels bad uh, selling her work because she knows that it's not going to last. So she doesn't know if people are willing to spend money on something that's eventually going to disappear. And her quote is, "Life doesn't last, art doesn't last, it doesn't matter." Materials. Like I said, she was a pioneer in rubber, cord, latex, translucent fiberglass, and forgot to mention, this right here is not just rubber, it's woven cord. Just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, so for example, here, rubber. These look very simple, right? Uh, like you would think, oh, this is not art. Like, oh, it's ugly. Well, because that's what I thought too. But if you get really into it, this movement, the minimalist movement, it wasn't about meaning. It wasn't about how they felt or any like cultural. It didn't have any influences. It was just about how things looked. And if you just take it for that, like the geometric thing that it is, it becomes something else. But um what she prided herself in was the process of making these artworks. Like for example, this one right here, made of rubber. She took liquid rubber and brushed every single inch. These are huge, by the way, and you can see every stroke in her panels, which is pretty admirable. Cord, for example, cord. That one people describe it as the three-dimensional Jackson Pollock, and it kind of does make sense because it's a huge mess and tangle of chords and stuff. But if you took a